Welcome to the Great on Purpose podcast. My name is Alfonso Alexander and I am your host. In each episode of this podcast, you will have the opportunity to get to meet leaders from various backgrounds, various industries who are really just cool people doing great things on purpose. They are pursuing their purpose and pursuing greatness and walking in lockstep as they do it. You'll understand what we mean more about that as you get into the podcast. Our goal here is to help you understand that being great is not just something that happens. It is something that has to be done on purpose and in alignment with your purpose. Therefore, this is the Great on Purpose podcast. Enjoy. Today's episode, Be Both Hands, features Christopher Winton. Chris Winton is the Senior Vice President of Human Resources for FedEx Ground. He is a dynamic leader, speaker, author, and coach with 20 years of experience shattering expectations in corporate America. As a Senior Vice President of Human Resources, Chris provides strategic direction to recruit, develop, and retain highly talented and diverse workforces. Chris began his career at FedEx more than 20 years ago as an IT intern and progressed to Director of IT Operations before transitioning to Human Resources. Chris is a phenomenal leader with great insight. Take a listen. Hello, all of you guys listening out there. This is Alfonso Alexander, and thank you for tuning in to the Great on Purpose podcast. Today, we're in for a special treat. A good friend of mine, Chris Winton, is going to be joining us today, and he is going to share some great knowledge. We're going to talk about some stories that we know and have shared over the years, and some things that will help you learn how important it is to focus on aligning your purpose with your journey to greatness, and how you can be intentional about achieving greatness and being great on purpose. So thank you, Chris, for joining us for the Great on Purpose podcast. Good to see you, my friend. How's everything going with you today?
Man, Alfonso, it's good to see you. Been a few minutes since we last spoke, but you know how we do it, man, trying to figure out this whole integration game, marriage, father, and growing in our careers. So once we figure out this formula, I guess we both will write a book together, right?
That's right. That's right. Well, you can show me the ropes, man. I know you are already a published author of a great book on leadership. And I've had a chance to read it. I still need to get a signed copy. We just haven't seen each other. COVID messed up the book signing that I know that you had planned for a few months ago. But still, we need to make sure that we make that happen. Even if I have to just fly up to Pittsburgh to come see you to get it signed, then I may need to do that, man. But it's great to have you here. I'd love for us one day to co-author a book. I'm working on my first one right now with the help of some of my colleagues, and looking forward to really going on that journey, and proud of you for what you've done with yours, man. Why don't you tell everybody a little bit about you and kind of what you have going on now, and a little bit of your history.
Yeah. So, born and raised in Memphis, Tennessee. I grew up a blue collar kid. I always say both of my parents worked 2-3 jobs growing up. And so when I was in high school, my brother and I made a commitment. We didn't want to see our mom work 2 jobs. Dad was like, hey man, you gotta do what you gotta do. But we all, the male and the family always want to take care of mom. So we started working, and as you know the story, Alfonso, my grades started to suffer a bit. And then one day my life changed in high school. I was getting ready to leave school early, headed to work, and the guidance counselor says, hey, I want you to stop and listen to this presentation. And the presentation was from an organization called Inroads, whose mission was to develop and identify young, talented minorities and prepare them to one day be corporate and community leaders. And at the time, I didn't have the grades. I didn't think I met the requirements. So I got ready to leave and was encouraged to come back, spend some time talking with my first mentor there, who inspired me that I could do this, and I just needed help along the way. And I'm just happy to report that mentor was Mr. Alfonso Alexander himself. So I am where I am today, literally because of you, sir. And today I say thank you.
Well, you're welcome, but my role in that is a very small part. But I do remember that story. I remember, your attitude and lack of desire because you felt like you were inadequate. But I do know that also your guidance counselor and I both saw something in you that you have just continued to be that same person, and it's paying off as you continue on this journey toward greatness, man. I'm enjoying watching you pursue what you're doing. So why don't you tell everybody what you do professionally?
Yeah. So I started FedEx through that program as an intern in IT, and have been with FedEx for now just over 23 years. Progressed up the ranks through IT. My last role in IT was director of our enterprise data centers. But at that point, I kind of felt a tug in my heart to do something different and wanted to make a larger impact, which I think is what brings us together today. And so I shifted over to HR, driving workforce strategy, did some pretty cool innovation things there, and really started to create pathways from underserved communities into professional careers at FedEx. And so that kind of catapulted my career. And so today my role is Senior Vice President of Human Resources for FedEx Ground, which is a $30 billion arm of the $70 billion FedEx company. So I oversee all of the HR functions, hiring for 200,000 employees across US and Canada. And I'm hiring about 40,000 right now. So if you know anybody, come apply.
come apply. I love it. But let's just make sure that I don't let us slide by the scope of your responsibility. So you lead all of human resources for an organization that is a 30 billion with a B dollar organization with 200,000 employees.
Correct.
And I would imagine any of us, if we go outside on a regular basis, it's very difficult for us to go outside and not see one of your vehicles driving down the street somewhere if we're out more than an hour. Is that right?
That's right.
Yeah.
You can't miss us. That's for sure.
Yeah. So from what I understand about the structure, you guys have your own internal employees, then you have strategic partnerships with entrepreneurs that have maybe small fleets that could be anywhere from one vehicle to multiple vehicles, and you've got a pretty sophisticated network that you operate under.
Yeah, it's a pretty impressive network. So that 200,000 employees are those internal to FedEx Ground, but those drivers that are delivering that package to your doorstep are independent business owners, some of which are really thriving and taking care of their families with that real entrepreneur spirit. So it's a great collaboration and business model that allows us to scale and meet the needs of our customers.
Awesome. That's awesome. And Chris, you touched on it a little bit in terms of how we first met, and you described me as a mentor, and I'm honored to be one that can serve that role in your life, man, and sign me up for the rest of our lives. I'm happy to do that for as long as you need it. But I always try to make sure people understand the power of connection and connecting with the right people, and how being connected with the right people can help open doors for you as you continue and matriculate through life. So maybe if you have any more detail or anything else you'd like to share about our relationship over the years and how that's been for you, please do so now. And then I've got a story I want to tell if you don't.
Well, I really attribute our relationship, and because I really do credit you as being that first mentor. I mean, I was age 18 years old. And if you remember, I was a bit cocky. I was like, at first when I didn't feel like I had the opportunity, then when you gave me the opportunity, it was like, well, then I want to be the CEO.
Yeah.
I'm going all the way to the top.
Right.
And so as an 18-year-old sitting in your office, and you asked me, where do I see myself 10 years from now? And then challenged me to write that down. And I'm thinking, I want to be the CEO. That was when you made me turn around and look at that picture on your wall and describe what I saw. And so I'm looking at this picture on your wall, and I'm 18. I'm like, all right, I see it. There's a hand reaching down from a cliff and a hand reaching up. And you go, tell me what you see. And I go, okay, well, I get it. Every level I move up, I'm supposed to pull somebody up. And you always had that just kind of sit back and look like, you ain't quite there yet, son. and so I'm scratching my head, but I always anchor on that. And as you can see, I got that picture now hanging up on my wall. Yeah. He Ain't Heavy by Gilbert Young. Yep. That has really inspired me as a leader, because what I realized then that really benefits me now leading on such a large scale is that you're supposed to always be both hands. Always be both hands. So yeah, I got one hand reaching down, pulling other people up, but I always got one hand reaching up for new wisdom, new insight, continued mentoring, and continued development. And once you have that, what you start to realize, that is the posture of servant leadership. It's about exposing your core. Yeah. And you're showing your vulnerability. And that's what get large organizations to follow you.
Yeah, man, that's awesome. You've got to be both hands.
Got to be both hands.
You know, so, and folks don't really understand it, but part of the reason why we talk about greatness being a journey is because once you get to where you've achieved some great things, there's still always somebody else that's done more. If you're still living, there's still always more that God has for you to do. So that journey never stops. And sometimes you have situations where you grow out of certain relationships because you've helped this person and now that person is continuing to move. So you still need to reach back and grab someone else. And then other times you got to a point to where some person has helped you as much as they can. So you still need to reach up and find someone else, man. So that's phenomenal. Tremendous wisdom that you share with that, Chris. And I love Gilbert Young's depiction of that. And it means so many different things. You know, the person up top needs to know and understand that they cannot be selfishly successful. If you're going to be the CEO, help other people get there as well. The person reaching up needs to know that they need to be humble enough to understand that I need help from others. I can't do this all on my own. And to your credit, you got it. You understand that you got to be both at different times in your life. You got to be both. Sometimes you're both at the same time, right?
Look, and that's when people say I'm pulled in multiple directions.
That's right.
Well, you should be pulled up and pulled down at the same time.
That's right. That's right. Well, Chris, you mentioned that you made the transition from IT to human resources. And, you know, there are probably people out there that would love to make some kind of transition or desire to do some things like that, but everybody can't do it. Why was this something you were able to do?
Well, for me, you know, I always get asked that question, and it took me a long time to answer that question for myself. I started to realize the number of people I was mentoring and the feelings I had of not being happy in my 9-to-5. And then you start to study the statistics and realize 80+% of people hate their job. And you go, well, but why is that? For me, what I realized is when I chose IT as a career path, I was 18 years old. Mm-hmm. And the 18-year-old me was different than the 28-year-old me. You know, after I got married and started to have kids, my life goals changed, my passion changed. My purpose started to become more in sight. And so now the 28 and the 38-year-old me is saying, well, wait a minute, but I've now built a successful career. And that's that tug that happens. Right. I can't transition because that's taking a step back, or I may lose something. But I tell everybody today, do not stand in that position too long, afraid you're gonna lose. Yeah. You wanna get to that sweet spot that I call when passion, purpose, and profession come together.
Yeah.
You know, it's those three circles. When they come together, now you're in your sweet spot. And for me, that sweet spot was being able to help other people reach their full potential.
Yeah.
And so I was thinking about leaving FedEx and going into the nonprofit space. And somebody else said to me, why would you do that? Why don't you just move over to HR? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that became the revelation and why I made the transition.
Sure. That's awesome, man. And that sweet spot is so phenomenal because that's when you get ultimate satisfaction and when you can make the greatest impact. When you're walking in purpose, you're passionate about it because it's in alignment with what you were made to do. And then if you can be in purpose, have that passion, and make that your profession, then that's when you've hit the home run, man. So touchdown, right?
and man, I'll tell you, I am in my sweet spot right now. And once you get in your sweet spot, it's not work anymore. You just enjoy doing it. You enjoy the mission.
Excellent. I love it. I love it. So Chris, what do you feel like are some keys to success that, are universal for, some that maybe you've experienced yourself, but for others as well?
A couple of them are, one, if you're operating in corporate America, you want to think like a shareholder. That was one of the concepts. And I talk about that in my book is think.
What's the name of your book?
Oh, the book is C4 Leadership.
All right.
It's in all outlets. It's essentially how to shatter that glass ceiling once and for all and ignite your career and ultimate success. But that transition for me was obviously in the thinking like a shareholder. Before, I used to consider myself, when somebody asked me, what do I do for a living? I will say, I'm in IT at FedEx.
Yeah.
But then one day I heard our founder and chairman, someone asked him, what did he do for a living? And he said he shipped packages.
Yeah.
And I started going, well, wait a minute. If I want to move up in this company, I better ship packages.
Yeah.
And so I stopped identifying myself by my education and identifying myself by the business that we were in.
Yeah.
And then now you start to connect dots differently. And that was where the whole kind of C4 framework came from of, once you put these 4 C's together and you're thinking like a shareholder, it shatters that glass ceiling once and for all.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I once ran a company that is in the vacation hospitality industry. We had a large portfolio of luxury vacation rental properties. And when I first came in and took over the company, my deal was, hey, we're going to create happiness for people. The people that are the vacationers need to be happy with the experience that they get. The people that own these properties that have entrusted us to manage them, they need to be happy with the service level that their vacationers are getting and the checks that they get every month from us. So that's what we're trying to do, is create happiness for folks, man. And things like that, when you shift your thinking and focus on really what ultimately you're trying to deliver, whether it's packages, whether it's happiness, then that's when you really start to understand the strategy behind how you can build a business. So I love that, man. So I'm glad that you shifted your thinking there, man. That's a great story. Great story, Chris.
Yeah, and that's where, and now once you've shifted your thinking and you're thinking now on the business and you understand the clear goal, that's when these 4 C's start to become clear. And that first C is now becoming a consumer of information.
Yeah.
Because I started to consume information differently when I'm thinking of, wait a minute, I'm in the package shipping business, not the IT business or even the HR business. So now I'm waking up every morning watching CNBC, understanding what's going on in the market and the market conditions and how it impact our business. And then that second C is I started to connect the dots and the different solutions that we were bringing forward and how we could actually move the business forward. And then to your point, the third C is now being able to communicate that in story form where people understand it. Like in your example, you're in the happiness business.
Yeah.
And understand why that's important, because you know who your customers are.
Yeah. Now
being able to communicate that where it invokes a feeling. And from there, the final C, now you can coach other people forward.
Yeah.
And those 4 C's, when you put them together, to me, like I said, it shatters all expectations.
Man, you're a philosopher now.
I learned from the best. I was taking notes back in the day.
I love it, man. I love it. I'm so happy to hear all of these things that you're saying, man, because you're telling all our listeners, you're dropping some nuggets from a guy who is really, you've ascended to the top of your profession. And when you look at a multi-billion-dollar company and you're leading the human capital function there, that's significant. And in fact, a good friend of ours, Anthony Flynn, is also one of our guests on one of our podcasts. And he and I were talking about you one day, and he shared with me that you are the youngest to ascend to the level that you are within your company. Is that true?
That is true. That is true.
Okay.
And I just got off the phone with Mr. Flynn.
Is that right?
Oh, look, he's continuing to inspire and drive. Look, like I said, the reaching up, I continue to reach up to him for new insight. So love Brother Flynn.
Good. Well, you guys are two of my favorites. Don't tell anybody else I said that, but you guys are. Hey, so when you think about your journey, Chris, I can remember you working hard in high school, and then a portion of the time where you were working an internship and still being a manager when you were in high school, for sure, on commercials and everything, being a manager at McDonald's.
Mm-hmm.
So talk a little bit about that foundational component and how the work ethic that you have still drives some of the things that you do today.
I realized back in high school that I was not the smartest person in the room. Like, I was not going to be the 4.0 GPA. Mm-hmm. So literally, even when I stepped in the inroads, that first session, when you were in front of this room and I'm looking at all of these young, talented people with 4.0 GPAs, and I go, well, I don't have that. That means I got to outwork everybody. So like when they're asleep, I'm reading a book, or I'm at work, or I'm learning something new on the weekends. And, I always encourage people, it's like, you've got to put in the work. That mean I was foregoing some of the parties back in the day to do that. But I knew it would pay off at some point. And you start to see then the trajectory shift. And this whole idea that, well, the grades don't necessarily equal the success, but hard work always does. So I tell everybody, put in the work and understand that every day is taking steps forward, even if they're baby steps. And you'll look up and see you're at a point where you go, how did I get here? And that whole how did I get here is the first question in the book that opens up, where I talk about how exactly did I get to this point? Because what'll happen is over time, you end up at a level and it was so much work along the way, you didn't even realize the journey.
Yeah. That's awesome, man. That's awesome. So when you talk about the work and the journey, what would you say is the most difficult obstacle that you had to overcome, that you have had to overcome thus far in your career and life?
Honestly, it is learning to enjoy the journey. Learning to enjoy the journey. You and I used to have conversations back in the day where you would always challenge me on my goals. And you know me, I was like, all right, I set a goal. I'm going to work and I'm going to hit that goal. And then I don't know if you remember this conversation, but I think after college, I circled back with you and I was like, I wasn't happy, and I couldn't figure out why I wasn't happy, because I had achieved all the goals that I had written down.
I do remember that.
and I was like, well, what do I do now? And just prophetically, one line is all you said was set new goals. And I'm sitting there going, I'm like, that's it. But what I've since learned is it's not so much as about the goal, but the goal gives you an aim where every day now has purpose.
Yeah.
And then once you start to enjoy the journey toward the goal, you realize the journey actually is the reward. So that's probably been the most difficult thing for me to learn over the years, is that it's actually the journey. that's the reward.
The journey is the reward, and every day has purpose once you have your goals established.
Exactly.
Because you're inching further and further toward that goal. I love it, man. That's outstanding. That is outstanding. When you think about our relationship and the times that we've talked, you may recall, at some point in that conversation, I'm going to always try to ask at least, what can I do to be helpful to you?
Yeah.
And we're at that point in this conversation. So, Chris, what can I do to be helpful to you? Because I want to really extend myself, and I can't accept a little pity pat, man. Just do what you're doing. No, we got to be better than that. So, what can I do to be helpful to you, man?
Man, my purpose in life is to help people reach their full potential.
I love it.
So I need your help to continue pulling me forward into my own purpose. And not allow me to get too busy in the everyday and forget who I am. So keep challenging me.
Okay. I can do that. And what I think would help both of us is if we're more intentional about having that conversation. Because I might need to just say, fix your goals or set new goals or something like that. So you have my commitment. You have my commitment.
Man, I appreciate that. Look, I will always appreciate why God put you in my life at that period and continue to be in my life, brother. I thank you.
Well, I appreciate that, man. And I'm glad to play that role and always know, and you know this because you mentor other people too. One of the things about being a mentor is that you benefit from your mentees also. If you have mentees that are experiencing certain things and they come to you and talk to you about those things, that stretches you sometimes to go and do some research. Because you don't want to be dead weight as a mentor. Like, well, man, I can't help you with that. So now I need to go understand and learn some things there, or connect you with somebody that can help you with it. So it helps me grow by playing that kind of role. So I'm happy to do it for you, but also it helps me as a part of the process. If you had to, in closing, give some advice to leaders, individual contributors, people who are striving and desiring to walk within their purpose, to start walking toward greatness, what would that advice be?
Sure. First is know your purpose. And if you don't know it, take the time by yourself, idle time, to figure that out. The book that helped me was Purpose Driven Life by Rick Warren, to figure out, so you want clarity in that. And once you have the clarity, now you can spend each day on purpose, consuming information, connecting the dots on what you should do, communicating with other people, and then now coaching other people to achieve their purpose. That's when life really is about fulfillment. So that'd be my advice.
And that's great advice. And I really appreciate you sharing that with us. In closing, I just want to say to everybody that's listening out here, you have just heard some significant nuggets from a great man. And I want you to listen to this multiple times so that you can make sure that you catch the things that Chris has shared with us. He's talked to us about being intentional about understanding your purpose, and even provided a resource of where you can go get that. He's talked about, in his own way, the level of humility that you have to be both a leader who can reach back and help someone, but then also who is willing, who's vulnerable enough to reach up and ask for help. He's talked about how hard work and the grind that you need to have is critical to you achieving success as you matriculate on your journey toward greatness. I always tell people, Chris, one thing is trust God and grind. And the trust God part of it, Chris, deals with understanding your purpose and trust that you're here for a reason. And then ask God to help you align with that purpose, and trust that he's going to provide you the resources, the direction, and all the things that you need to. But faith without works is dead, right?
Amen.
So you put that trust there, you get that part together, and then you go work your butt off to deliver. And that's the trust God and grind, man. You are a phenomenal example of being great on purpose because I know what work you have put into to develop in the areas where you've developed and to have the successes that you've had. You're also a great example of that trust God and grind, man, because I see your understanding of purpose and I see how much work you put into things that you do. And I really appreciate you. So grateful that you chose to spend this time with us today.
Hey, man, I appreciate you, brother. Appreciate you.
Yeah, my pleasure. So thank you for being here. Ladies and gentlemen, we appreciate you listening to the Great on Purpose podcast. It's been a phenomenal time with Mr. Chris Winton. We've enjoyed talking with him. Wish him all the best as he continues to pursue greatness on purpose. And I'll say to you, and I want to challenge you, everybody that's listening, be great on purpose. Thank you for joining us. Have a great one. Chris, take care.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you for tuning in to the Great on Purpose podcast. I am Alfonso Alexander. Please be sure to follow me on Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook so that you can continue to hear stories and get information that can help inspire you to be great on purpose.